Hi everyone, welcome to Live Penguin TV. I'm so sorry that we started late today. We have been having a few technical difficulties. That's why we've been a little bit late today. I actually wasn't even meant to be working tonight, but I've come in to sort out those technical difficulties, and here we are. So I've been told at the moment, I'm just going to jump right into it. We have heard that there are some penguins crossing the beach. So let's cross to our beach and see if we can spot them. In fact, there we go. It looks like our first group is just starting to cross the rocks right now. Okay, there's a few that have already started making it to the rocks. We have some early birds tonight. Fantastic. So everyone, we are here at Phillip Island Nature Parks' world famous penguin parade, watching the smaller species of penguin making their way, their dangerous dash across the beach back to their homes here on Phillip Island, Victoria, Australia. You might recognise me. My name is Jordan. Hello and huck everyone. Tonight we're also joined by Michael. Michael, come in and say a little bit of a hello and let us know what you're going to be doing tonight.
Good evening, John. Good evening, all. I'm just going to be answering questions off the YouTube and just assisting Jordan while she does her commentary. So enjoy.
So if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube at any point throughout the stream, if you have questions about these beautiful little penguins, please do chuck them in the comments. We will be monitoring, like Michael said, the YouTube comments tonight, because on Facebook we are going to be having a team of wonderful penguin rangers going around and answering all of your wonderful questions within about 24 hours or so. Unfortunately, we don't have the capacity to do that on YouTube, so that's why we're going to be monitoring those questions here tonight. If we don't get your question answered tonight, please tune in night after night. We are running this live stream and you'll have some more new faces joining us this coming week. You might remember Sky or Stephen as some of our fabulous live Penguin TV hosts. But yeah, tune in night after night, keep asking those questions, and hopefully we'll be able to get them answered live on the air. So I'm just going to zoom into these precious little penguins over here who have just made their big dangerous dash across the beach. Now these penguins are looking very beautiful, they are looking very chunky and very well groomed. Well, that's what they're in the process of doing at the moment. It looks like we've got a lot of penguins coming up in the Penguin Highway just now. I will be able to pan to them in just a moment. So we're lucky enough here on Phillip Island to have the largest colony of the little penguins in the world. There's about 32,000 of them that live here at the Summerland Peninsula. So I would like to pay my respects to the Bunurong people, because they were the first Nations people to watch these little penguins cross the beach and live in the same area as them and maintain their environment in a really well managed and sustainable way. And that's why we have so many of these beautiful penguins and such a healthy ecosystem here on Phillip Island. So I would like to acknowledge the Bunurong people as the traditional custodians of the land and thank them for caring for country as they've done for so many thousands of years. Now I'm just going to pan to the beach because I thought we might have a few more groups starting to make their way in. It must have been a big first group. What I might do, I want to see if we can spot any rafts of penguins, so any groups of penguins out in the ocean. When penguins are out at sea, when they're getting ready to come home, they want to have as many friends or as many buddies home with them as possible. It's a little bit hard to see because we have such a low tide tonight, although can I see a few penguins washing up just at the water's edge down here? And they make a sound which, if you are a regular watcher of Live Penguin TV, you're probably very familiar with, and that's called a huck. Sounds like, oh no, that's just a seagull. I might go back to the penguins on the rocks just over here. They make a sound called a huck to call out to each other and try to have as many friends with them cross the beach as possible. So it's a sound that sounds like huck, 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 huck. Michael, give us a huck. There we go. We like imitating penguins here on Live Penguin TV and at the Penguin Parade if you've ever joined us before. So they're making that sound. It's like an echolocation. Hey guys, is it safe? Is there anyone else out in the ocean that would like to join our raft, our group of penguins, as we start to make our way in, because like I said, there's safety in numbers. They want to have as many friends with them crossing the beach as possible. And for some of them, these penguins might be lucky enough to have a beautiful beachside residence, and these penguins hanging around on the rocks might not have a very long journey to go home. Others might have to go up the hill, over the rocks, through vegetation, and have nearly 2 kilometre hike to get home. So for such tiny little penguin legs, and to only stand at about 33 centimetres or 1 foot tall, these little penguins are excellent hikers. So we might be able to see some of those making their journey up the hill tonight. So let's cross the pond, which isn't normally here, although if you've been watching the live stream, you've probably noticed that it has been here almost every single night, because we've been having lots of rain. And so it's normally just a dried up little path, but with this rain it pools here, and the penguins much prefer to swim rather than to waddle. So they're very, very lucky penguins at the moment. So it looks like we've got a penguin just here, or 2 penguins maybe, that have just crossed the pond, and it's probably a little bit tired. Doesn't really have any other friends around, having a bit of a look, although it looks like I can see a few penguins kind of in the grass. Let's have a bit of a look. I wonder if the ones in the grass have a nest nearby, and they're going to try and tell off any penguins that go past it, because I'll be like, hey, this is my home, you must stay away. Looks like that one's starting to go on a little bit of a journey. Let's see it commandoing through the grass. Where's your little head, or have you just ducked below so we can't see? Cheeky penguins, they're playing tricks with me. I bet as soon as I move away, they will start popping up out of the grass. Let's move back to the rocks and see if we can spot any penguins hanging out. Oh, there's a few that have just gone for a little bit of a swim. Let's see if we can see any penguins jumping over the diving board. Looks like we might have one contender over here. And if you have tuned in night after night, you've probably noticed that these penguins, they can be graceful, but quite often they kind of slip into this pool over here or do a little bit of a cannonball. So let's have oh no, that was a fairly smooth hop in. Oh, there's a penguin that looks like it's just come from the other way. I wonder if that could be a shell gritter. Let's keep an eye on that penguin. Oh, there's another one that's just crossed the pond. Let's keep an eye and see exactly what they get up to, because if they end up going the opposite way, if they end up going through that group of penguins, or waddle of penguins, like we like to say here on Phillip Island, I think they might be a female penguin with eggs in their tummy, and those female penguins would have been on land all day, and now that it's safe to do so, they'll be heading down to the beach to nibble on little bits of seashells and get their calcium supplements to make their eggshells nice and strong. Looks like we're going to have someone maybe jumping off, going for a bit of a cannonball. Let's watch as we, see, slipping, not super graceful. Let's have a little bit of a look and see what is going on. Oh, it looks like we've got another big group starting to cross the beach. Here we go, Penguin Peak Hour traffic. It does not stop at sundown here at the nature parks. All right, let's have a look at this nice big group. Oh, yeah. So I believe we have Kat counting the penguins tonight. So Kat is one of our wonderful rangers here, and she will be having a pair of binoculars going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 100 penguins, and counting all of these penguins as they cross the beach, because our penguin count is part of a really ongoing, really important long-term penguin survey that helps us determine how well the penguin colony is doing. It helps us monitor their trends, and it helps us identify some of the things that what might be the threats to these penguins and how we can best help protect them as well.
So I've got a few questions. Just how many penguins came in last night? So I've got the number here.
Very good. All right, everyone. I know that this is one of the most sought after questions here at the Penguin Parade, and that is how many penguins crossed the beach last night. So Michael, how many penguins did we have cross?
So we had 3,081 penguins crossed last night.
3,081 penguins. My gosh, that poor penguin counter last night must have just been counting absolutely non-stop, because that is a ton of penguins. Let us jump to the Penguin Highway camera. They're a lot easier, in my opinion, to count just over here. Look at them all. They are just not stopping tonight. It is the Penguin Highway, as we like to call it, so it's a bit of a thoroughfare. The penguins do not want to stop. They are on a mission. This is top speed on the highway over here. It's a bit like a Tom Cruise film. Uh, Look at them coming along, and you can see how really healthy these penguins are coming just around the corner. Looks like there's one, maybe it's found its exit, the one off to the right to the Penguin Highway. Oh no, I think it's trying to look for a path off the highway. I wonder if that means because it has its home nearby, whether its breeding partner is nearby, or it can hear a very attractive boyfriend or girlfriend that its breeding partner doesn't know about. So it's definitely looking in the grass. Where are you going, little buddy? Kind of backtracking a little bit. So the penguins here very, very rarely get lost at the penguin parade. They've got very good eyesight and they know exactly where they live. They're very familiar with the routes that they take to go home. They might go left at the rock, right at that big tree stump, and they're able to find their way home very, very well, even in the dark. So they're pretty clever little penguins. And a lot of them will act, oh my gosh, there's a stack coming around the corner and it looks like, are you going to join this group as well? No, it's still determined to head up the hill. Where are you going and what are you doing? So the reason we are getting so many penguins crossing the beach recently is because we are right at the start of the breeding season, everyone, which is super duper exciting. So a lot of these penguins will be coming home to sit on eggs. They might even be coming home to feed some beautiful little brown fluffy chicks that they have at home as well. So actually, even today, it was about an hour ago, I was out in the colony because I saw one of the little wooden boxes that we build for our penguins. The lid was a little bit askew. So I jumped into the colony to fix that lid, and inside there was two little brown fluffy chicks that were about 3 weeks old and a beautiful mama penguin protecting them, keeping them nice and warm and well fed until her breeding partner, the male, will probably be coming home tonight with a big belly full of fish and going bleh right into the baby's little chicks' mouths. So if you see some really chunky penguins coming home, that's a really, really great sign. That means they've got lots of food in their belly and hopefully they're bringing it home for their little chicks. My gosh, they are not stopping on this penguin highway. I might jump back to our other camera and we can keep an eye on them on the top right-hand corner as well. Looks like we've still got a bit of a traffic jam going on just on the rocks here as well. So yeah, in the penguin world, the bigger you are, the chunkier, the more voluptuous you are, the more attractive you are. So any chunky penguins, we are not fat shaming our penguins here at the Penguin Parade. We are incredibly proud of them because when they are bringing food home for their chicks, it's roughly about 14 kilograms of fish over about an 8 to 10 week period. And for a little bird that only weighs about 1 kilogram, that is quite a lot. So imagine yourself carrying home about 14 times your body weight of food in such a short amount of time. They're pretty impressive little birds. Alrighty, so remember to keep your questions coming tonight, everyone. Michael is going to be monitoring the YouTube comments tonight. Oh, there's tons of penguins. Hang on, let us zoom in on these guys as they're crossing the beach over here. So at any point throughout the stream, if you've got a question for either one of us, please chuck them through. And let's see if we have another question from the audience, Michael. How are we looking?
So one person would like to know, we mentioned that we count for 50 minutes, and why is this that we count for just 50 minutes?
You know what? That's a really great question. Why do we only count for 50 minutes? So that is the way that we actually started monitoring penguins back in 1968. Not sure why it was 50 minutes. Why not an hour? Why not 40 minutes? But they just chose 50 minutes. And because this is part of an ongoing survey, it's pretty much part of a scientific design. So we have to keep the study, the method we count the penguins, we have to keep everything the same because that helps us monitor the trends of the penguins over time. So we count them for 50 minutes. 50. So you'll have to tune in tomorrow night to hear how many penguins exactly it was that crossed the beach tonight because we will be ending this stream before the end of the count tonight. But yeah, for some reason they decided 50 minutes was a good amount of time to count penguins as they cross the beach and to keep things consistent, to keep all our data and all our monitoring relevant and following the same trends. That's why we have to count them exactly the same way over 50 minutes. one of the things, the penguins actually take nearly 3 hours to cross the beach every single night, but most of them come in the first hour or so. So I suspect it's probably because that's when the most kind of number of penguins come in, and it's still a little bit light around that time. So it's a bit easier to count them, and after that 50 minutes or so, less penguins start crossing the beach, and it gets a little bit darker and harder to count. So that's what I reckon why they are counted for 50 minutes every night. But yeah, poor Kat definitely has her work cut out for her tonight because there are stacks and stacks and stacks of penguins as they make their way home. It almost looks like there's not a spare spot hanging out on these rocks just here. It is filled with penguins. And we have been lucky enough to welcome back Regional Victoria to the Penguin Parade with a capacity of only 150 people. So we're very much looking forward to having more and more people back as the restrictions ease. But we do have Regional Victoria with us at the Penguin Parade at the moment. So you might have seen a few heads just as we were panning around before. But yeah, hopefully we'll be able to welcome back the rest of Victoria, the rest of Australia, and then the rest of the world, not in too much time. So I hope everyone is enjoying these live streams while we can't have you here in person at the moment. But yeah, hopefully we'll be able to have you back very, very soon. My gosh, the penguins are just not stopping tonight. Off they pop. And we can see how visible the penguins are as they cross the beach with their beautiful little white bellies. So although these penguins are very conspicuous as they cross the beach, this beautiful white belly, it looks like they might be slowing down in the penguin highway. Oh no, they're still on the move. So while they're very conspicuous for us crossing the beach, it's really important that the penguins only do that when it gets dark. So when the sun sets, predatory birds, there was a few flying around a little bit earlier this evening, such as Pacific gulls, white-bellied sea eagles, whistling kites and swamp harriers, they return to their nests for the night because they need the light to be able to find their way back to their nest, which means the penguins that can see quite well as it gets a bit darker can cross the beach. Oh, it looks like someone might have just dropped something. Someone's dropped a little toy on the penguin highway. Let's see if they can get them. It's probably a little kid, and the penguins are like, what is that penguin in that jumper doing over there? I'm sure it will be away very, very shortly. There we go. Oops, running away. They know that was an imposter penguin. That's all right. They'll be able to regroup, take a breath. Are we ready to go? What do we think? And then they will keep on heading up the Penguin Highway. But that was a little bit of drama here. So if you are visiting us at the Penguin Parade or aim to do so very shortly, please make sure you've got all your belongings, as you don't want the penguins to take anything that you drop over the boardwalks over here. Let's have a look back on the rocks just over here. Now, actually, with that little plush penguin that we just saw, I actually have one right with me just here. And even that one in the top right-hand corner, oh look, they're starting to come around. You know what? Let's watch these brave penguins come up the Penguin Highway. It didn't take them long to regroup. So they're very curious and very nervous little penguins, but they're pretty brave. So I reckon it was only about 30 seconds when they ran away. Oh, that one just fell over. And here they have come en masse. Not a worry in the world. Good work, Pengs. You are so brave. All right, we'll jump back to this camera now. So yeah, you might have seen that little plush penguin that fell over, looked just like this one here, and it had a little jumper on. So it's not a fashion statement. It's not to make them look really cute and beautiful. In the past, we unfortunately have actually had oil spills around Phillip Island, and oil is really, really bad for our penguins because if there's an oil spill out to sea and the penguins are actually swimming through that oil, it can get all over their feathers. And like we can see the penguins doing just over here, let me zoom in on them for you. When they get home, when they get back on land, they actually start preening their feathers. So they're getting any little bugs, ticks, parasites that might be on them. They're making sure their feathers are in alignment and they're interlocking really, really well. So if they have anything on their feathers, their instinct is to peck it with their beak. When penguins have oil over their feathers, that when they do start preening themselves, that oil ends up in their beak and down into their tummies, which can cause them a lot of grief, and it can sometimes even cause death. So when we have had it, there was an oil spill, I think it was many, many years ago now. What happens is we have to get all the penguins that are affected by that oil and take them to our wildlife clinic. And there, the penguins have to be washed, have to get a bit of a shower, and it can take quite a long time to get all the oil out of their feathers. So in the meantime, what we actually have to do is put little jumpers on the penguins to prevent them from getting that oil in their beak and making it end up in their tummy. So if you might have heard kind of penguin jumpers being mentioned around the place, and that's something that's affiliated with the Penguin Foundation. So if there is an oil spill, what we do is we put a call out, and you can even do this right now. If you're really, really good at knitting, there's a little penguin jumper template that you can find on the internet and knit these little penguin jumpers, and we have so many of them here at the Penguin Parade for if there is an oil spill in the future, so that while we have the penguins in our care, we can put these little jumpers on them and prevent them between washes from getting that oil, like we can see them preening now, getting that oil into their tummy and causing them a bit of a tummy ache. So yeah, if you're a really good knitter or you'd like to take up knitting while you're in isolation, while you're in lockdown, why not start knitting and knitting some penguin jumpers for our Penguin Foundation. So if you would like to do that, or you're thinking about different ways that you would like to help these little penguins out as they make their way home, you can donate to the Penguin Foundation as well. The link is just in the description below. You can adopt a penguin or become a penguin pal, and I believe with that penguin pal option, you actually get one of these little plush toys with a penguin jumper as well. So yeah, please, if you've got a little bit of spare change and you think these little penguins in their jumpers are so cute, we really appreciate any money or any generosity that you've got for us here. I think we might have another question from Michael.
We do have lots of questions.
Lots of questions, that's what we want to hear.
So young Daniel, I think he's about 6 years old, he was wondering, do the penguins drink the seawater?
Do the penguins drink the seawater? Daniel, that's a good question for aged 6. So if anyone has ever been out in the water, gone for a bit of a surf, and maybe the wave has dumped you, you have had a big mouthful of that awful, very, very salty salt water. Penguins do actually drink the salt water, but they're really, really cool because they've got a little desalination plant in their beaks, which helps them filter out any excess salt that's in their blood. So after they've drunk the salt water, this little desalination plant in their nose works really, really hard to get rid of all that salt that's built up from drinking seawater. So every now and then you might be able to see that, oh, actually I saw quite a few just then. See some penguins kind of going and they kind of flick their heads. So they're actually, that little desalination plant in their nose, it extracts the salt in like kind of a salty sludge. It probably sounds a little bit gross, but when they're kind of flicking their heads like that, they're clearing out their nostrils from that desalinated water so that their blood is got the right amount of nutrients and salt in there. So yeah, really good question from Daniel. The penguins, we don't really see them drinking fresh water. So because they spend about 80% of their lives out in the ocean, they have to be able to adapt to that. So that little desalination plant in their beak helps them drink the seawater and make sure that their blood doesn't get too much salt in it as well. So whenever you see them flicking their beak, that is exactly what they are doing. So good question for Daniel, age 6. Thanks for that one. Let us have a look and see what is going on in the vegetation just in front of Penguins Plus. Do we have any penguins standing outside their burrow? Nope, doesn't look like it. Okay, let us head back out to the beach and see if we can see any more penguins as they are crossing and making their dangerous dash home. I know a lot of you have been eagerly counting these penguins as they are making their way home. And you know what? In this group just in front of us, I can safely say there are 6 penguins crossing the beach. What an expert penguin counter I am. But send your love for Kat, who was counting those really, really big groups at the start. Well and truly over 100 penguins in those groups, I would say. Looks like we've got another smaller group coming along. Now, guys, it looks like we've got about 5 more minutes left of the stream tonight, but if you have ever watched me on Live Penguin TV, you'll know that my 5 minutes usually turns into 10 minutes, and because we did start a little bit later tonight because we were having some technical difficulties, sorry everyone, I might stretch that 5 minutes out just a little bit so that you got plenty of penguin time to ask your questions and watch these beautiful little penguins as they make their way home, make their dangerous dash across the beach. Alrighty, look at them go. They are definitely picking up the pace once they get closer to those rocks. They know they're nearly home. And it looks like this group of rocks directly at the front of this penguin's plus stand, where the penguins stop to do their penguin yoga. We like to call them the resting rocks, or the little yoga studio. They are having a great time preening their feathers. Look at that one getting right under its flipper, waterproofing themselves and making sure they look beautiful when they head back to their burrows, which might be home to a beautiful male or female penguin, depending on the sex of the penguin that we're looking at, and maybe some little brown fluffy chicks going beep, 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 beep. Actually, you know what? Michael is does a really good imitation of penguin chicks. So I'm going to move out of the seat for a second, and I want Michael to get nice and close to the microphone for you, because I have seen Michael at work be the chick whisperer, and he's actually been able to. The chicks end up talking back, and they look around to see what that other chick is, but it's just been Michael. So Michael, come on camera and let us know what a little baby penguin sounds like.
So a little baby penguin has a little cheeping noise, and it's like a little whistle. So it sounds a little bit like this. So I was out surfing today at Right Point, and I saw a big raft float past me, and so I did a bit of whistling, and the penguins kind of came over and had a bit of a look and see what was going on, but they worked it out pretty quickly. So yeah, they just cruised off. But yeah, it's nice to see it in the colony and just getting these little penguins to come out and have a little chat with them. So next time you're here, maybe you want to come up and try it yourself.
Very good, everyone. So Michael actually got to go surfing with penguins. How cool is that? I do like surfing, but I often can't stand up. So he'd be out in the back with the really big waves where the penguins would be swimming around, looking for fish. I'm just playing around splashing around in the shallow waters. But yeah, quite often we do have reports of surfers out when they're out kind of anywhere around Phillip Island, quite often are out there with penguins, which is really cool. So thanks for that, Michael. Very good work with your penguin whispering. Alrighty. So might maybe have time for one or two more questions from the audience, Michael.
Yeah, we've got a couple of good ones.
Very good.
Thank you too much. So Mel K was just wondering, how long do the fledglings stay out to sea for once they leave their nests or their burrows?
Mel
K?
Mel Kate, beautiful. So penguins, the little juveniles, when they head out into the ocean, quite often don't come back to Phillip Island until about a year. So they spend most of that time out in the ocean. They might kind of pop up on different spots throughout the coast of Australia if they need to have a little bit of a rest and preen their feathers. But most of the first year of life is spent out in the ocean learning to fish, swim, dive, and all of that fun stuff. Because unlike humans, little penguins don't get taught what to fish, where to fish, or how to fish. They are all on their own, and as soon as they're about 8 to 10 weeks of age. And I've got a little bit of exciting news. I think I might have mentioned this in one of the streams earlier this week, and that was that we had our first chicks of the season fledge. So they left their burrows and they are no longer in where they were being raised by mum and dad. They were really good weights before the last time we saw them in their burrow, but since then they have headed out through the penguin colony into the ocean, and they are currently learning how to find food all for themselves. And the day after we found that these chicks had fled, so when they'd left the burrow, mum was hanging out and she was probably going, oh, thank goodness, bringing about 14 kilograms of food, of fish back for these chicks over about 8 to 10 weeks. Again, it's a lot of food for a little penguin, but after the kids had moved out, she can come back to her burrow and breathe a sigh of relief. She knows that her and her breeding partner have done a really, really good job, and very shortly we're about to have a few more chicks starting to fledge and head out into the ocean all by themselves. A few of you might be thinking, oh my goodness, 8 to 10 weeks old, and that's what, 3 or so months? That's not a very long time for a penguin to be fully grown. So they hatch from an egg about this big. It's kind of the size of a small chicken egg, and they're tiny little brown fluffy things, but it only takes them about 6 or 7 weeks for them to start to get their adult feathers, and they're fully grown at 8 weeks, and they look just like these other penguins that are hanging around on the rocks, which are all adults. But I've been told that at night at the penguin parade, we have been seeing a few chicks coming outside of their burrows and bothering every single adult that walks past their burrow saying, Mum, Dad. I can't do what Michael did. I tried and I failed epically. They are going, Mum, Dad, are you my mum? Are you my dad? Will you feed me? I'm hungry. What's for dinner? Oh, look at them plopping out in there. So yeah, as time goes on, these little chicks will be fully grown and heading out into the big wide ocean. And because we've had a really good and really early start to the breeding season, it looks like a lot of these penguins will have a second clutch. So they'll lay a second lot of eggs, and if they do even really, really well again, and they successfully raise their chicks after 8 to 10 weeks, they might even have a third one. So send your luck to these beautiful breeding penguins, but all the signs are looking really, really good at the moment for these little chicks. So yeah, thanks for that question. Most of the first year of their life will be out to sea, but sometimes we find in the second, and when they're kind of 2 or 3 years old, they will return back to Phillip Island, to a very similar area to where they were raised by their parents. So thanks for that one. Alrighty, let's have one more question before we sign off tonight, Michael. He has so many questions to choose from. And remember, if we don't get around, I wonder if you're a breeding pair just down here. If we don't get around to your question tonight, we have so many people commenting. We can't possibly get through all of your questions. Look at them, making sure they're nice and beautiful. So yeah, keep tuning in, and remember on Facebook we will be getting a team of rangers answering those questions for you. So if we don't get around to your question tonight, we are not ignoring you. I promise, we are just getting absolutely overwhelmed with questions. So all right, one more question, Michael.
So people are wondering, how much do these penguins eat? So when they go back to feed their chicks, what sort of
how much
food do they ingest?
Alrighty, another good one. Well, I've been talking about fishing and it looks like there's someone. Oh, are you a third wheel? Let's have a look and see what happens with this couple and that penguin off to the left, just over here. So penguins, they're only weighing around about 1 kilo, but they can carry a whopping between like 200 to 300 grams of food in their belly, which, what's a quarter to a third of their overall body weight. So again, I'm making you guys do a lot of maths tonight, but imagine carrying around a quarter to a third of your body weight in food. That is a lot of weight for a tiny little penguin. And if they have chicks at home, they won't be digesting much of that fish themselves. They will purely be coming home to regurgitate that for their fish. And if you are watching earlier this week with Dr. Andre, you would have heard that penguins can kind of turn their stomachs into a fridge. They can increase the pH of their stomachs and make it more neutral, less acidic. So when they swallow the fish, it doesn't actually start to break down, where the penguin can then kind of convert it into fat and energy. They kind of store it in their belly, so when they come home and regurgitate it for their fish, it's pretty much fresh, which is pretty cool if you ask me. We always used to think that, looks like these penguins are pretty comfortable around each other at the moment. So we used to think that penguins, adult penguins, when they were coming home to feed their chicks, used to regurgitate a kind of fishy soup to their chicks. But no, turns out they can change the pH of their stomach and regurgitate it back to their chicks, so it's nice and fresh. Much nicer idea, if you ask me, compared to mushy, warm, digested fish. Ugh, yuck. But the little baby chicks seem to love it anyway. Alrighty, everyone, I think it's about time for us to, I'm going to jump back to the rock, sorry, overshot just a little bit. It's time for Michael and I to sign off for tonight. Remember, we are running this stream every single night, so tune in, same time, same place. We look forward to having you with us very, very shortly, and we always love all the questions that we're getting through on the stream. Remember, if you have a little bit of spare change and you'd love to adopt a little penguin and get some cute little penguin toys that help us protect our penguins through conservation, education and research, you can adopt a penguin or become a penguin pal. In the meantime, please stay sane, please stay safe, and we look forward to having you back very, very shortly. Thanks again for tuning in, and I think Michael and I will sign off with our well-known huck. So ready, Michael?
Yep.
Huck, huck, huck. Bye, everyone.
See you later.
Huck.